Hello. Today I'm going to share my thoughts on Horace Miner's fascinating 1956 anthropological piece, Body Ritual Among the Nacirema. Now, when I was reading that word for the first time, I was wondering, okay, how am I supposed to pronounce that? What does this mean? Who are these people? And it took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize that it is American spelled backwards. So this article, is looking at American culture and American culture through the lens of an outside perspective or an outside anthropologist. Um, so, what Miner does in this piece is cleverly describes American hygiene and health practices, specifically around bathrooms, through the lens of that outside anthropologist. What struck me initially was how effectively this perspective shift of just kind of seeing things through an outside lens transforms our daily routines into bizarre rituals. Bathroom cabinets become medicine chests, toothbrushes become small bundles of hog bristle, dentists are holy mouth men. Um, so it does really change perspective when you don't have specific words and specific meanings to describe things. Um, it does give it kind of an alien, foreign feel. Um, so by using this outside perspective, Miner kind of exposes how that context, that cultural context, is going to shape our understanding of behaviors and what they mean. Um, and those behaviors that we take for granted, that we think are normal or natural, especially things surrounding the bathroom from an outside perspective, would be unusual possibly to somebody of another culture. So it's really this article challenged me to reconsider aspects of American culture that I had always kind of accepted without question. Um, it also kind of shows how deeply embedded those practices are and how difficult it is to recognize those things that we do every day and take for granted, um, and to recognize our own biases and assumptions within that. So, taking a little bit of inspiration from Miner's approach, I want to examine another American cultural practice from that outside perspective view. And you might see a cat running around, so just bear with me on that. But the cultural practice that we're going to take a look at through that outside lens is going to be the ritual of Black Friday. So, um, kind of think about it like this, right? The Nacirema engage in a peculiar annual ceremony following their Day of Gratitude. At the conclusion of their feast day, many Nacirema prepare for what they call Black Friday, a curious name that belies its importance in their consumer religion. Before dawn, large numbers of tribe members voluntarily leave their comfortable sleeping chambers to gather outside commercial temples. Despite often harsh weather conditions, they stand for hours in tightly packed formation. When the temple doors finally open, a remarkable transformation occurs. The normally orderly Nakarima engage in frenzied acquisition behaviors, sometimes physically competing for sacred objects marked with special symbols that indicate temporary reduction in the required offering. Many Nakarima will traverse great distances between multiple temples throughout this day, collecting items far beyond immediate need, often accumulating substantial debt to their tribal money holders. This ritual appears deeply connected to the Nakarima's core values of individualism, competition, and material acquisition. The participants seem to derive satisfaction not just from obtained objects, but from the act of successful competition itself, demonstrating their superior resource gathering skills to other tribe members. So yeah, when we describe Black Friday from an outside lens, I mean, it sounds highly religious. It sounds very deeply important to those core values, and it's reflecting that consumer-driven economy, right? So all of that cultural value that we put on material possession, as indicators of success, power, and status, um, kind of is shown in that same way. So Black Friday was kind of my first thought of like, okay, what's the weirdest thing that Americans do that if somebody from the outside saw, they'd be like, oh my gosh, there's something going on here. So that's one that I wanted to touch on a bit. Um, so we'll talk a little bit about the historical evolution of Black Friday. So this ritualistic shopping event has evolved significantly throughout American history. The term Black Friday itself originated in 1960s Philadelphia, where police used it to describe the chaotic traffic and the crowding that occurred the day just after Thanksgiving. In the 1980s, retailers reframed it as the day when their accounting books moved from the red, so losses, to the black, profits. By the 90s, 2000s, stores began opening earlier, offering doorbusters, deeply discounted items available in limited quantities to create urgency. Then around 2010, we saw the practice expanded beyond Friday, stores opening on Thanksgiving evening and extending deals throughout the weekend to Cyber Monday. So it essentially went from being that Black Friday being that shopping day to essentially that whole week being a shopping week. Um, so yeah, that ritual has gone through significant transformation, um, becoming more and more online, turning into weeks or even entire months of sales. And especially when we think about how much shopping has changed via, the pandemic and things like that. Um, we're only increasingly moving online, and sales are increasingly becoming less confined to that specific day. Um, so that kind of shows that broader change in consumer culture, technology, and how everything gets commodified from it being just that one Black Friday day to becoming, okay, now we're shopping on Thanksgiving. Now we're shopping on Cyber Monday. So everything is kind of fair game and um, fair game to be consumed by this culture of consumption. Um, so the evolution of these changes, the changes to Black Friday represent both benefits and detriments to American culture. So on the one hand, the digitization has reduced physical dangers once associated with Black Friday crowds. So, um, you're less likely to get trampled on when you're doing a Black Friday sale on your computer than if you're, in the front of the line at the doors at Target. Um, According to consumer psychologist Kit Yarrow in her book Decoding the New Consumer Mind, this shift has democratized access to deals and reduced the tribalism of in person retail competition. So, once again, in that book, she's kind of highlighting that tribalism of rushing to get those last few items and physically competing with the people next to you to go and get those has kind of shifted away. So now that there's more access for many different people to get a hold of these deals. However, I believe these changes also intensified the problematic aspects of American consumer culture. So, the extension of Black Friday into a season long event has further commercialized the holiday period. So, we're essentially left with, okay, here we have this, day of gratitude, day of Thanksgiving, overshadowed by, essentially a month long shopping spree before Christmas Day. Um, and it diminishes the focus on, what the purpose of Thanksgiving was in the first place. Kind of hard to show gratitude when you are rushing to celebrate materialism. Um, as historian Lee Eric Schmidt notes in his work Consumer Rights, the Buying and Selling of American Holidays, quote, the continued commercial colonization of the calendar represents a fundamental shift in how Americans experience shared cultural moments. Um, the transformation of Black Friday from a single day into an extended shopping season exemplifies that trend, replacing those communal rituals with consumption based activities. And, you know, that evolution has, as it started in the 60s, 70s with, more commercial push in the holiday season, it's only gotten more and more suggested to us. Um, While the evolution of Black Friday has made shopping more convenient and safer, its expansion has ultimately been detrimental to the culture by further entrenching those materialistic values at the expense of more meaningful traditions and connections. In conclusion, Miner's analysis of the Nacirema, examining our shopping rituals from an outside perspective can help us recognize patterns and values that we might otherwise overlook in our own culture. By understanding these cultural practices more consciously, we gain the ability to evaluate and potentially reshape them for the better. That is my reflection. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best day.